Okay. It's actually just afternoon here, and I just really got caught up in the day since I woke up. So I'm getting around to the lesson now. I have to run out and do some errands. By that time, it'll come back. It'll have processed, and I'll be able to upload it to YouTube. And I gotta tell you two things that just sort of came up for me. One was the reason why I waited to do these two lessons together. And the other was just something I remembered as I sat here. And, you know, while I read these lessons and I do them, as I do them, one of the things I have noticed is that throughout the day, it doesn't matter where I am, what I'm doing. And in fact, I've come, and this is part of what I'm going to speak of, I've come to welcome the times. Um, like yesterday in the doctor's office, or places where I wind up being where there's seems to be empty time. And a lot of times, we have appointments and we're waiting for appointments and we have to get someplace and we get there and we're either early and we have time or they're late and we have time or we're sitting in a restaurant and the food hasn't come yet and you have time or there's 1,000 different ways in the course of the day, wherein which there's a moment where you've stopped, where I have, this is going to talk about myself, where I've stopped with my functioning in the world of space and time, just doing the little odds and ends that seem to seem to be part of the day, whatever the day you're in. Whatever the day you're in, there seems to be these little odds and ends that you're involved in, and you're sort of undercover here, so you don't stop that life altogether. But you, after a sufficient time of, and this is, as a matter of fact, one of the things I'm going to talk about with these two lessons, we're just about at the turning point, and this is sort of what this is all addressing, or keeping you in for a moment so you understand it. So there are many times, Jesus just reminded me of the line. There's a line that goes, says, I've told you of the many times that you've had to gladden yourself. And although this may or may not be what he's talking about, it did come to my mind to associate it with these times for myself. Well, you have a moment alone in the car, or however it's working, however your day is working for you. First of all, you've got these lessons. Now, of course, personally, I'm not using the lessons as a regimen because I've been through them before. And yet now that I'm doing them through as commentary, I do use what's given for the day in the moment when I'm given to do what whatever, rest in God. I don't know what else you'd call it. And throughout the course of the day, I take these moments. Now, how many moments, I don't even know because it's become part of my existence here in space and time. I'll go to, let's call it DMV. I'll go to the DMV, and you get there, the line's long, you don't want to wait until all of a sudden I remember when I sit down, oh, wait a second, they're going to call me. I'm doing exactly what I'm being asked to do here in the world of space and time. I have a moment here to close my eyes or to look around and to let everything go and to bless everybody here or to make momentary contact with God, to renew myself, to refresh myself. We have those moments within space and time, and that's what space and time is meant. We've been told, since we've been utilizing A Course in Miracles, this is what space and time is really meant for. Using the miraculous mind that you're gaining through the application of the workbook of A Course in Miracles to bless your brothers and to bring the joy that you're experiencing in your heart and mind, because you've discovered a solution to the problem of mankind. Let's put it where it is. When I discovered that I was saved, that I was saved, I discovered the solution that all mankind is looking for. Now, there have been those in mankind who have discovered this solution as well, Admittedly, we call it salvation here in A Course in Miracles. It may be called something else someplace else. I don't know. I do know that's what it's called in A Course in Miracles. And so I'm given the ability in the course of my day, as my day and time in general, space and time, is being more and more organized by the organizing principle of spirit that is within me and within you all. Because more and more of my day and the value of my being here is devoted to fulfilling my function as God created me, and that involves making contact with my guide, the Holy Spirit, and the tech crew, talking to Jesus, resting in God. So I was at this. We went the other night to a course meeting, and there are a lot of people there who, LA people, and the teacher was the woman who was facilitating the Course in Miracles was from New York City, and now she has moved to LA. And there were people there from New York, and we walked in with a case of books, and we gave them books, and I began to talk to people. And it was at one point in time, she had, and the meeting was only an hour, so there wasn't much to happen. And bless her heart, what I know is, what I took away, when I sat down and thought of her in the meeting, the day after the meeting, I really saw how she was trying to be helpful. She was really trying to be helpful from the position that she has been in utilizing the Course in Miracles, and what has facilitated her to the point in her own development that she's utilizing this at. And it was based on having a teacher back in New York and a community of people who sort of like hung out together, who, a community of people that they could count on, who had been doing the course for long enough that they could that they could get together with on occasion. And she wanted to foster that in LA, and she wanted to use this bookstore for the purpose of it. And I could see that was really, and I could see at the end that it was really for her. She wanted a community. She went around and people were saying, some people didn't know what the course was at all. So she was explaining what the course is, and people said, "Oh, there's a workbook. Where's the workbook?" I never saw the book. I haven't given books. And people said, "Well, how long does it take? How long do you do it?" And what he said, well, when you start, you only do it a minute for a couple of times a day. So laughing, and some people had experience with it, so they mentioned what it was to them. And this one guy was there. He was a nice guy too. He had a good idea. I want to talk to him about what he does, which is aside from this. And his girlfriend, they were both from New York, and they grew up, and they were in the city. I lived in the city. They knew exactly where my place was. I knew exactly where they had lived and where they worked and everything. And so at one point in time, when we went around the room, he said, "I came because my wife wants me to be here." Or his girlfriend. I can't remember whether they were married or not. And so when she started to talk about the workbook, when the facilitator started talking about the workbook, he said, "Well, how much time is this going to take us? She has me meditate. Oh, she has me meditating and wants me to do yoga too. And now if I have to do these lessons, that's a lot of time. That's cutting into the time that I've devoted to my life and fulfilling my function the way I feel my function is in life." And he was onto something in what he was doing, but when he began to ask those questions, I could hear the position he was in his mind. And when I sat down to do this lesson today, 217 and 216, I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. It can be but my gratitude I earn, which is interesting for where I find myself. Only my condemnation injures me. Who should give thanks for my salvation but myself? And that's where I find myself in this moment. And how but through salvation can I find the self to whom my thanks are due? So now everything's being tied together in you, no matter which direction you turn. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So when I sat down to do this lesson, and I closed my eyes, and it's always a relief. I mean, come on, I love my life and the things I do and the people in it, but it's always a relief to know that I can sit down for a moment, let it all go, not be shirking my responsibilities all the time, but actually utilizing the world of space and time as it's been designed for me to use. to sit down, take a real pause, a moment that refreshes, in that I can, restore myself to the sanity and recognition of my own divinity. And what reminded me of that was, so I had, I was thirsty. I made myself a glass of some lemonade and San Pellegrino water, sort of an Italian soda. And I picked it up and I spilled some right on the table here where my two computers are. And my first response was, I'm still spilling stuff. Same thing when I stubbed my toe, and I'm still hurting myself. And, and it's just that reminder that I know you think you're perfect, but you still got a little, there's still stuff happening. And, it just even addresses those kinds of egoic judgments that we put ourselves through, in the little trick the ego uses to try to make us think something's gone wrong. When he says, they're not perfect yet, but they're here to perfect themselves. And so they teach perfection over and over again until they are perfected, until they are perfect and recognize and align and converge with their own perfection. So it was interesting. So it can be but my gratitude I could earn, especially when the gratitude comes from my recognition that I am saved, and all that salvation means in the experience of it means, all that it means. It means that all has been included back into the totality, into the whole, and I am one once again with God, and so are all my brothers, regardless of what the dream of space and time looks like. And because I know that's true, who else and how but through salvation can I find the self to whom my thanks are due? My thanks are due to the self, it's capital S. The self that we all are as one, when we've recognized the necessity for salvation, done what it takes within our own mind to achieve the experience of it, and then carry it with us wherever we go. That's the self that's already been saved. That's the Son of God that, is back to the remembrance of who God is, prior to having ever dreamt the dream of leaving home. And the reason why all this is possible is because I am not a body, I am free. For I am still as God created me. And he goes on in the second, and it's interesting, the way it's even laid out on the page here, 217 followed by 218, just as 215 was followed by 216, and both of them have set you up in right-mindedness, meaning in 217 you are turned around where you're recognized as the self that you are. Who should give thanks for my salvation but myself? And how but through salvation can I find the self to whom my thanks are due? Because I'm not a body, I am free, and it can be but my gratitude I earn. Now you're recognizing yourself as true through salvation, and in salvation you recognize that the self never needed to be saved from what you thought it needed to be saved from, but needed to be saved in your awareness from your thought that it's separate from everything. And that's what, so now he's giving your wholeness in 217, and 218 he's saying, okay, and if you wander, condemnation is going to be the only thing that can injure you. Only your own condemnation is going to injure me. Now you see how you've been righted. He's talking to you from a right perspective in that sense. You're true, you're whole and perfect, and that's what you are in salvation. Okay, now the only thing that could ever happen at this point in time is your own condemnation can injure you, because you've recognized you're safe and whole and perfect in your relationship with God and all your brothers in reality. Beyond any grievances, through the practice of your own forgiveness and the recognition that once everyone's salvation is achieved for all, through forgiveness that everyone's applied, everyone's in the same state of mind as you are in regards to grievances, because there will no longer be any, having been none in heaven. And then we're back to the condition where, okay, now I've been saved. This is like a post-revelation for me, in a sense. Now I've been saved. I'm saved. The world is saved with me. There still seems to be space and time. I may have an assignment here within space and time to fulfill, just as all of us do, as we integrate ourselves back into the recognition and the awareness of the kingdom, because that's what we lost. So now we are saved and we're whole. Now, in that recognition, because that is an entirety, that's a totality, that's a recognition of innocence that cannot be sullied, cannot be questioned, cannot be changed. Okay, now if you're not experiencing that innocence and you're experiencing sickness, pain, and suffering, then the only thing that's causing it is my condemnation, which could injure me. Why? Because you're not a body, you're free. And you utilize your mind. Remember, mind is the activating agent of spirit, and it will follow as directed by mind. You're using your mind to create an unreal condition that is opposite to your reality. So therefore, it is eternal and infinite, whole, perfect, and totally abundant. So, and in order to do anything other than that, your condemnation would condemn you to the body wherein which injury is possible. Okay. Now, when you recognize none of that is true, and now you're ready to make the final cleanup, because you can be a miracle worker. We have one more set of lessons, and then we're going to be into the second part of the book, which is the gaining of true perception. Why? Because your mind is undone. In that sense, Jesus has given you, you've reached the for I am still. You've reached, I am not body, I am free, for I am still. And in that stillness, the remembrance of as God created me dawns on my awareness. And if I am as God created me, and that is eternal, infinite, without contradiction, without opposite, love, eternal, his expression of that forever, given only the ability to create, in the freedom of all of that. If I am that, and I do have that experience, and that experience includes eternity and infinity in it, then you must understand the nature of this being an illusion. It doesn't matter whether you still feel like it's real when you are in it, because feeling it as if it's real is necessary in order to convert the thoughts that are causing you to think it still has the ability to cause you to feel, which is what's keeping you from your own eternal state. Contact. So we do want to maintain contact. We don't want to be abstract, but we want to forgive ourselves so that our contact with it is more communication, an extension of love, rather than a point wherein which contradiction occurs because we're against and we're hiding, and we haven't forgiven yet. You see what I'm trying to say? When you're forgiven and your mind is open, your body is a vehicle of communication. It's always a vehicle of communication, one way or the other. When your mind and heart is open and you're being filled by the love of God and your cup runs over, you extend love. You feel that, but you don't feel that as a body. You feel that as the light that you are in relationship to the body's use here in space and time. When you're not that, what you feel is suffering from the denial of that. And your body changes the way it feels to tell you that you're not doing that. Okay? Now, even after you've had an experience of salvation, you still have the experience of feeling you're a body. Don't judge yourself because you feel that way. Utilize your mind and heart to become an extension of love by healing it. My condemnation keeps my vision dark, and through my sightless eyes I cannot see the vision of glory, yet today I can behold this glory and be glad. The moment we recognize that it's our own condemnation, we can free our mind from getting the results of it and join with our brothers in salvation, with the Holy Spirit, and with God. And now we can achieve right perception, right-minded perception. These lessons, these three lessons, and Jesus always uses threes, these three sets of lessons, 215, 216, 217, 218, 219, and 220, are all holding you, these two, in a right-minded perspective, right side up. The next one's going to offer you the freedom and joy of being at that still point and staying open, because you are a body, you are free. And in your right mind, you would never condemn yourself or anyone. So now your mind can be open, and now right-minded perception could be the way you live. And the lessons that are going to be given to us are going to be ways of maintaining that new thought system in our mind on a daily basis. So that was 217 and 218. I'm not a body. I am free, for I'm still as God created me. It can be but my gratitude I can earn. Who else is going to be? Only my condemnation.